So when Sri Ramakrishna was asked if he had actually seen God, he said yes, unhesitatingly and unambiguously. We all know now when his disciple Swami Vivekananda, whenever he used to meet any sage, the first question he would ask is, "Sir, have you seen God?" And Ramakrishna was the first one who said, "Yes, I have seen him, and I see him as concretely as I see you standing in front of us." So this has been documented in his biographies and widely discussed amongst his disciples. Is it possible to see God physically as you would see another human being? Most do not readily believe that it is. Perhaps projection and self-suggestion, or delusion, hallucination. Even Swami Vivekananda, who had asked Ramakrishna the question of seeing God, had initially thought it to be a kind of hallucination. There are others who believe it is possible because someone like Ramakrishna has said so, and beings like Ramakrishna do not lie or exaggerate. But then again, it all depends on the faith of the person, and it will never be easy to pronounce anything decisive on such matters unless it is so evidenced by personal experience, anubhav. But what exactly did Sri Ramakrishna mean when he said that he had seen God? It would be best to recall his own description. "Do you know what I see now?" Ramakrishna says he had asked. "I see that it is God himself who has become all this. It seems to me that men and other beings are made of leather, and that it is he himself who, dwelling inside these leather cases, moves the hands, the feet, the heads. I had a similar vision once before when I saw houses, gardens, roads, men, cattle, all made of one substance. It was as if they were all made of wax." So for us, we keep hearing that everything is God, but for a sage like Ramakrishna, whose inner vision is open, he could actually see that everything is God. This chair, this floor, every person sitting here, everyone is made up of one substance, which is God. So what's the point of, how does it help us? Or how would Ramakrishna have changed the first time he actually saw everything as God? Nothing looks threatening, na? Everything feels like, if it's one substance, the same substance can't harm itself, right? But then how do we wrap our minds around the fact that in life we do see people harming each other? So why would God do that? Why would he do that? To give you what you need. Yeah. See, there was a very lovely aphorism we'd put up on the Savitri group last week. I'll read it to you, of Sri Aurobindo's. It says, "Ravana's mind thought it was hungering after universal sovereignty and victory over Rama. But the aim of his soul kept its vision fixed upon all the time was to get back to its heaven as soon as possible and be again God's menial." So I'm not going into the story of Jay and Vijay, we all know that. But Ravan is to our eyes so terrible, so whatever. So his mind, Ravan had forgotten he was Vijay. So his mind's aim was, I want to subjugate Ram. But all the while, his soul's vision was that I just want to get back to Ram as soon as possible. So, can we wrap our minds around the fact that the soul's aim and vision in each being is very different from the mind's aim and vision? So, and then if there's such a clash between the two, then how can they belong to the same being? Ravan's mental aim was, I want to conquer Ram. But Ravan's soul aim was, I want to be reunited with Ram. So, how do we reconcile that in one being there can be two opposing aims, and yet the two aims don't contradict each other? It's difficult, no? But Mother says where two opposites meet is the point of highest truth. So, it's perfectly possible that if there's a Ravan, a difficult person in my life, to apparent viewing, the aim of this person is to make my life miserable. But the sole aim of that person, the soul's aim of that person could be quite different. And it is quite different. And finally, the mental aim of the person is also determined by the soul, right? Shri Krishna says, every being is mounted on the wheel of Maya and finally executes my will. So, finally, it's that will which is compelling Ravan's mind also to have this goal to subjugate and conquer Rama. So, if everything is one, finally everything is one mind, right? And that one mind is executing its will through many apparent surface minds. But all minds are finally tributaries of that one mind river and executes its will. So if every mind is executing the higher will, then finally it has to work for the evolutionary good of me and everyone else. So as Siddhi says, it finally nothing can ever harm me because everything is executing the higher will. So we've been exploring this mantra in our yoga classes. Omkar Evedam Sarvam. Omkar is the Om vibration, the God presence, which is present in all things. Omkar, Evam Idam. Evam is alone, Idam is here. Everything here is Om alone. So is God alone. So if you really remember that, you don't feel threatened by anything. You're not out to really impress anyone. Because if you remember Rumi's words, no eye but his has ever looked upon the universe. So if there's just one eye which is looking through this eyes, which is looking through that eyes, I can't be scared of anyone's disapproval and I can't be too concerned about getting anyone's approval either. Yeah? So let's just practice this. Shut your eyes. And twin your vision with Ramakrishna's vision that everything is indeed God, and seeing everything as God, the table, the chair, each person sitting here, just a different permutation, combination of Om. Think of all the difficult people in your life. They too are Om and Om alone. Those people whose attention you really want, whose approval you really want, they too are Om. They too are Mother. So that brings us to Omkar Evedam Sarvam. All is Om alone. So let's fold our hands in a Namaste. And as we chant Omkar Evedam Sarvam, just keep visualizing everything as Om, as God, and see what it does to your mind. Omkar Evedam Sarvam. 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 And with your eyes shut, just 3 times as you mentally articulate Om, actually encourage your inner vision to see anything that threatens you or pressurizes you or burdens you just as another permutation combination of Om. And then open your eyes and we continue. Sri Aurobindo too had seen God and has described his experience graphically in his famous Uttarpara speech. It was while I was walking, Sri Aurobindo says, that his strength, again his with a capital H, entered into me. He said, I looked at the jail that secluded me from men, and it was no longer by his high walls that I was imprisoned. No, it was Vasudeva, the divine and a name for Sri Krishna, who surrounded me, walked under the branches of the tree in front of my cell when Sri Aurobindo was in solitary confinement. That time he was given this vision. But it was not the tree. I knew it was Vasudeva. It was Sri Krishna whom I saw standing there and holding over me his shade. I looked at the bars of my cell, the very grating that did duty for a door, and again I saw Vasudeva. It was Narayan, the Supreme Divine, and another name for Sri Krishna, who was guarding and standing sentry over me. Or I lay on the coarse blankets that were given me for a couch and felt the arms of Sri Krishna around me, the arms of my friend and lover. This was the first use of the deeper vision he gave me. I looked at the prisoners in the jail, the thieves, the murderers, the swindlers, and as I looked at them, I saw Vasudeva. It was Narayan whom I found in these darkened souls and misused bodies. When the case opened in the lower court and we were brought before the magistrate, I was followed by the same insight. He said to me, when you were cast into jail, did not your heart fail? And did you not cry out to me, where is thy protection? Look now at the magistrate. Look now at the prosecuting counsel. I looked, and it was not the magistrate whom I saw. It was Vasudeva. It was Narayan who was sitting there on the bench. I looked at the prosecuting counsel, and it was not the counsel for the prosecution that I saw. It was Sri Krishna who sat there. It was my lover and friend who sat there and smiled. So, all of us goes through hardships in life, but nobody would have gone through the kind of hardship Sri Aurobindo went through, right? To be taken to jail, to put into solitary confinement, that's another level of hardship. But this was all a part of the greater plan, because Sri Aurobindo had to be taken to jail for this vision to open out. So life was giving him exactly what his soul and his purpose needed. And Sri Aurobindo says, at first, of course, the British government was his enemy. But he says the only result of the British government's wrath was that I found God. So apply this to the difficult people in your life, the difficult situation. The only outcome of their being difficult with you is in somewhere to bring you to yourself, to truth, to God by the quickest possible way. So now, actually this excerpt is from a book by Partho on Sanatan Dharma. So this is Partho's words. What Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Aurobindo both describe is undoubtedly physical. How much more physical can get? But then many would ask if these were not projections of the mind. When we try to see God everywhere, it's a projection of our mind and it's useful. But for Ramakrishna and Sri Aurobindo, they were not projections of their mind. After all, no one else around or with them was seeing God while they were. And this brings us to an important point. Sri Aurobindo did not project Sri Krishna onto the people around him in the jail or onto the walls, the tree, the bar, the blanket of the jail. It was Sri Krishna, omnipresent, permeating all existence, who revealed himself in the substance of the walls, the tree, the bars, the blankets, the people. Sri Ramakrishna too did not project anything on people around him, nor did he hallucinate. Again, it was the divine that revealed itself in all beings and things to Ramakrishna. In both cases, it was the will of the divine and, of course, the spirituality of the seers that made possible the divine vision or darshan. The potential for divine darshan is in every living and conscious being who wants such a darshan or whom the divine chooses for such a darshan, for it works both ways. Sri Ramakrishna, by his own accounts, intensely and persistently wanted divine darshan, especially of goddess Kali, whom he addressed as Ma. We know Sri Ramakrishna was known to weep all night with his eyes red, calling to the mother, until finally he got a vision of her. But Sri Aurobindo didn't call to her. While Sri Aurobindo, again by his own accounts, was chosen by the divine for this darshan. So he didn't ask to see Krishna. I don't know if he had a very conscious relationship with Krishna prior to this. But Krishna revealed himself to Sri Aurobindo. So it can work either way. By calling to God, you can get this darshan, or by God wishing to give you the darshan as an act of grace, you can get it. And both, may I point out, were considered avatars, Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Aurobindo, or divine incarnations by their closest disciples. And both went on to attain a stage of their yogic work where divine darshan was no longer needed, for they had themselves become the divine. Complete identification. Purna Sayujya. Sayujya is identification. So they became later on in Sri Aurobindo's life, there are stories that when there were disciples who were great devotees of Krishna and they were in conflict with how can I feel so much love for Sri Aurobindo when Sri Krishna is my Ishtadev, and on their birthdays when they would go up to Sri Aurobindo's room, they would see not Sri Aurobindo but Sri Krishna lying on the couch, and they would ask Sri Aurobindo later on that how did this happen, and he said there's no difference between Sri Krishna and me because he had become one. Then we can't imagine what they are seeing, but then it's not like the first glimpse of seeing Krishna everywhere. But what about the rest of us, those who are not avatars? Can we too attain divine darshan? If we go by Sri Aurobindo and Sri Ramakrishna's teachings and writings, absolutely yes. Anyone who wants it sincerely enough can have the divine darshan. Even the Purna Sayujya, simply because of the one sovereign fact that we already are the divine in our depths. We only need to realize that in our consciousness, that Tvam Asi, as our Vedic Maharishis had declared. So how do we start this? Sri Aurobindo and the Mother have reminded us again and again that the fundamental thought you have to hold in your consciousness for the integral yoga is that all is God. So we have to keep reminding ourselves of that. So when we are handling a cup, Thich Nhat Hanh says it so beautifully, when you are washing a bowl, think that you're giving bath to a newborn Buddha. If you do it with that, how beautifully you'll wash whatever you're doing, whatever you're handling, the people around you. If you remember that they are God, automatically there's a softness in your interactions with them. You're less defensive. Why do we feel burdened or threatened by people? Because we feel, they are going to burden us with something we don't want to deal with. But would we feel like that if Mother gave us a chore or gave us something to do? We wouldn't. So if we just keep reminding ourselves that every person is Mother, every person is God, then our whole interaction with that person will change. And I keep reminding you, Mother has said that if you interact with even the most terrible person, from the highest in you, the highest in that person is obliged to come forward. So to keep reminding ourselves all the time that everything is God. So nothing threatens me, even if that the outer mind of the person judges me, finally the God self of that person never judges. So to live your life with abandon, with this feeling that if everything is God looking at me through different eyes, then finally I can't be judged. So over a period of time, we can care less and less about being criticized. Lots of us hurt a lot when we are criticized, or if we feel we've created a negative image in somebody's mind. But the Mother says it again and again, never care what people think of you. Care only about your relationship with the Divine. And whatever they are thinking of you is quicksilver. It will change. Don't invest your energies or your emotions bothering about them. Only keep looking at the thing that they are also God, I'm also God, and interact with them from that space. Any thoughts, anything to share about this? How far is this possible? How doable is it? And if it's not doable, what is the hitch? Why is it not doable?
Sometimes I
Your ego comes in the way, which means that the opposite person is also divine, because you feel you want to prove you are right, you want to prove.
If she has hurt me or something, if she has hurt me, you can't imagine it.
If the person has hurt you, you can't imagine that that person's God, because in our whole mind, it's God can't hurt. But Sri Aurobindo was an avatar, he was God himself, and yet God used the God in the British to give him this kind of tragedy and crisis in his life. So it's very significant to remember Sri Aurobindo's whole tryst in the Alipore jail, because it will soften our mind. At the end of it, he had only gratitude for the British government who had tortured him beyond words. So if my guru can do that, if I just twin my mind with his, whenever I can't see God in the other person, let me remember that Sri Aurobindo came out of jail thanking the British government, and we know what tortures he went through. So can I have a little bit of that vision, or can I ask him, give me a little bit of your vision? I can ask him, he'll give it to me. It is when we begin to see our own personal self and personality as a veil at once concealing and revealing the true self, and regard our very act of perception as the conscious gaze of the Atma, seeing through the physical senses and knowing through the mind, that we begin to see through all the other faces and facades, and glimpse the same Atma gazing outward through all physical forms and embodiments. It is then like seeing in a different light. The face of the other becomes transparent, and we begin to see the Atma behind every face. So once we become one with our God self, then I don't look at Mansi as Anahita looking at Mansi. I'm Atma looking at Atma, and Mansi's face becomes transparent. I just see that same God essence everywhere. But the true face is not really behind in a physical sense. It is in fact more as an expression or a presence shining through the facade of the outer face. The outer face, the Rupa, is still there, but the true presence is so clear in the background that we no longer pay attention to the outer face. So beautifully he's written it. It is in fact more as an expression or a presence shining through the outer facade of the outer face. The outer face, the Rupa, is still there, but the true presence is so clear in the background that we no longer pay attention to the outer face. The outer face is a mask that becomes increasingly transparent to the growing inner vision of Atma in all forms. This is what the seers called Atma Bhav, the sense of oneself in all and all in oneself, the final and irreversible reconciliation of multiplicity. And it is this bhav that forms the practical basis for living the Sanatan Dharma. This bhav that all is God becomes the practical basis for living the integral yoga. When the Hindu therefore says ahimsa parmo dharma, non-violence is the supreme dharma, he does not mean it as a moral injunction or as an intellectual idea. He means it practically and concretely. Since he sees the one divine in all forms, how can he not be non-violent? The Hindu does not seek to propagate non-violence as an ideal. He seeks to eliminate the last tendency of violence from the grossest, the most physical, to the subtlest psychological, from all parts of his being. In other words, he seeks to embody ahimsa. Likewise, when he speaks of truthfulness and sincerity, it is not from the moralistic or intellectual standpoint at all. In these two, he seeks to embody truth, not because he has an intellectual conception of it, but because he lives it in anubhav. These are facts of integral experience. He lives in everyday life. So Partho is saying that when the Hindu says ahimsa paramo dharma, ahimsa is the fundamental and the highest dharma, then he is not saying it just as a poetic line. For a Hindu who practices Sanatan Dharma and who sees God everywhere, how can you be violent to God? To be violent to anyone would be being violent to God. But does that mean he becomes passive? Sri Aurobindo says that if I needed to, I could stab a person with a sword with perfect love in my heart. He sees that that person is also God, but in the matrix of the whole, this is the action that needs to be taken, so he'll take it, but without any violence in his heart. So this brings us to the fact that when we see our loved ones doing not so wholesome things, or even our hated ones doing negative things, if we see them as God, will we just let it pass? Obviously not. But I will not take action when I'm angry, because then I'm acting from my lower nature. I will wait for the anger to pass, and only when I'm really calm and I'm centered, then I will speak to the person, or the need to speak to the person will drop away. Either ways. But let me not react from the lower nature. We took this up last time where Mother said that never react from your lower nature. That's what causes untold harm. And we do it in the stance of being a Kshatriya, being a warrior, standing up for the truth, and we must. But the space from which we stand up for the truth is all important. Otherwise, in the guise of standing up for the truth, we are only standing up for the falsehood of our ego. So that shouldn't happen. So this is a passage from Savitri, where Savitri's father has just heard from Savitri that she has chosen a man who's going to die, chosen a Satyavan, and Narad has been very ominous about the choice. So Ashwapati tells Savitri, "Well hast thou done, and I approve thy choice. If this is all, then all is surely well. If there is more, then all can still be well." So when Narad has hinted that this is a terrible choice, and they all know Narad can see the truth. So Ashwapati is saying, "Well hast thou done." He's telling Savitri, "And I approve thy choice. If this is all, then all is surely well. If there is more, then all can still be well. Whether it seem good or evil to men's eyes, only for good the secret will can work." So Ashwapati has gauged that Savitri is going to go into something quite dark. But he's saying, whether it seems good or evil to my eyes, to the Queen Mother's eyes, to Narad's eyes, only for good the secret will can work. Our destiny is written in double terms. Through nature's contraries we draw nearer God. out of the darkness, we still grow to light. So the contrary is that all of us need to pass to darkness to grow towards light. Death is our road to immortality, yet conquers the eternal good at last. There's a line missing here. Cry woe, the voices of the world call. Just check this. Yet conquers the eternal good at last. So Mother gives us a very interesting thing about entering the other's consciousness. So she says, when there's conflict, try to enter the other person's consciousness. Her words. You have never tried to enter another person's consciousness to know exactly what is going on there? If people are reasonable, they do not quarrel. But if they are not reasonable, they begin quarreling. Then instead of quarreling, the best thing to do is to enter into the other's consciousness and ask yourself why he says things like that. What is it that pushes him to do this or say that? What is the inner reason? What is his vision of things which makes him take this attitude? It is extremely interesting. If you do this, immediately you stop being angry. First thing, you can no longer be angry, so this is already a great gain. But also if the other continues being angry, it has no effect on you. And then later, one can try to identify oneself more perfectly and prevent the movements of division and deformation and stop the quarrels. Very useful. So we may think, how can I enter the other person's consciousness? I don't have the capacity to. But after I read this, I just tried. Whenever a negative judgment towards anyone came, I would just mentally put myself, think, I'm the other person. Why is the person behaving like this? And it was quite uncanny. Maybe a reason would come. Now maybe that reason is my mental projection. I don't know. But immediately when the reason would come, the negative judgment would drop. It's quite interesting. See, when somebody is very negative to you, you get very egoistic. Egoistic means you only think about yourself. I'm feeling hurt, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. If nothing else, this will at least take you out of your ego. Just put yourself in that person's thought, in that person's shoes, and try and think, why is this person behaving like this? It's a beautiful exercise. Do try it and share what happens. So Mother says, it is extremely interesting. If you do this, immediately you stop being angry. First thing, you can no longer be angry. So this is already a great gain. But also, if the other continues being angry, it has no effect on you. Then later, one can try to identify oneself more perfectly and prevent the movements of division and deformation and stop quarrels. Very useful. Do try it. I find this very beautiful what the Mother has said. So simple and so practical. Now she says about money, because very often when it comes to money, we forget all about God, because money can be so threatening. What if I don't have enough? What if I get swindled? It's like a glitter which, when I look at money and the things it can get me, very often I completely forget God. But Mother and Sri Aurobindo have such a beautiful practical take on money. So Sri Aurobindo, I think this is Mother. So the first thing to do when one has money is to give it. But it is said that it should not be given without discernment. Don't go and give it like those who practice philanthropy. that fills them with a sense of their own goodness, their generosity, and their own importance. So, this giving also has to be with discernment. I'm actually thinking of someone who was given a lot of wealth and very good-hearted person, and just what took over her, she gave it all away to somebody who may not handle it with the best possible attitude. So that is giving away Lakshmi to hands which can't handle it, and that's wrong. That's very concretely wrong. So when you give with discernment. Wealth is a force, wealth is an aspect of the mother's Shakti, and that Shakti should always be held in the right hands. It should never be given away to hands which will get possessive about it, which will get greedy, which will not let her flow. That's not the right thing to do, but we must give. We mustn't get possessive and greedy about it either. Because I've observed that when wealth comes, the first thing, it makes us greedy for more. It makes us possessive about wealth. When we don't have much wealth, we are not bothered about the markets. But the moment wealth comes, it becomes an obsession, and sometimes the more wealth we have, the less chutta our hand becomes. We want to hold it. We don't want to give it freely. But mother says that if you don't give, it won't come. Wealth is like water. When it flows, you receive, and you give, more water flows. But give with discernment. Remember, you're giving an aspect of mother's Shakti. It should not be squandered. Yes?
How do we know whether that person will be good or bad with that wealth? How do we know? Because we
Yeah,
also
that's
say
a
that
$1,000,000 question.
we cannot judge a person since he
So
has no
don't give randomly. Sit with it. Ask mother. See, all of us have a connection with mother, or we can't be here. Ask her, mother, do you want this force of yours to go to this person? Sleep over it 2-3 nights. Don't give on an impulse. If it's a big amount, little things, you give, it's okay. If they misuse it, it's their karma. But huge amounts, think before you give.
Giving is actually like also buy things.
What? Clever. You want to give to the shopkeeper. Yeah, if that solaces you. But if I have 20 dresses and I buy 2 more, I could use that money. See, mother says never think you're the owner of wealth. You're the trustee. And use if you were the trustee of, say, the donations made to Sarkar, would you just give it any old way? You'd think 10 times, this is mother's wealth. It's a big trust given to me. So whatever wealth is given to me, it belongs to the mother. It does know finally. But we don't live like that. We know it mentally, but we don't live like that. We feel it's my money. I want to pamper myself. I want to buy. And you should buy. Mother was all about Ma Lakshmi. She was always very well dressed and all. But it's always a razor's edge balance between indulging and living with beauty. And each of us has to find that balance where we live with beauty. We buy beautiful things for ourselves, but with discernment, not indiscriminately. Because I may not have to answer anyone else, it's my bank balance. But make mother a joint holder in your bank balance. You always have to take the second holder's sign, no? So always feel as if she's signing on every check you give to anyone or anything, and give with that attitude. Very difficult, because our whole conditioning since childhood is so different. You must act in a sattvic way, that is, make the best possible use of it. And so each one must find in his highest consciousness what the best possible use of the money he has can be. And truly money has no value unless it circulates. I know so many people who lived with total poverty consciousness. They wouldn't spend. Now, by the time they reach 60, 70, they have crores in their bank, but they don't know how to spend it because they are not in the habit of spending it. So, with all their wealth, they are continuing to live a very poor life. So, what's the use of that wealth? You should know how to spend money for your good and for the good of others. And truly, money has no value unless it circulates. For each and every one, money is valuable only when it has been spent. Mother somewhere says it that till you spend money, you don't own it. Think about it, what a practical thing to say. Your bank owns it. You don't feel you have the capacity to spend it. So you don't own money till you spend it, but not indiscriminately. The conflict about money is what might be called a conflict of ownership. But the truth is that money belongs to no one. The idea of possessing money has warped everything. Money should not be a possession like power. It is a means of action that is given to you. Money is a means of action, of freedom, of doing things you want. It's not just something that has to accumulate in the bank. Money should not be a possession like power. It is a means of action which is given to you. But you must use it according to what we can call the will of the giver. That is in an impersonal and enlightened way. If you are a good instrument for diffusing and utilizing money, then it comes to you. And it comes to you in proportion to your capacity to use it as it is meant to be used. That is true mechanism. The true attitude is this: money is a force intended for the work on earth, the work required to prepare the earth to receive and manifest the divine forces. And it, that is the power of utilizing it, must come into the hands of those who have the clearest, most comprehensive and truest vision. So we have to do a lot of work on ourselves to develop the right relationship with money. And once we establish that relationship, we invite Mahalakshmi into our lives. But if we have a relationship with money which is full of friction, then Mahalakshmi's footfalls don't come there. If you don't respect her and you just spend it left, right and center, she won't come. If you don't spend it either, she won't come because it stagnates. You have to spend it in the right way with discretion and always make it a habit. Whatever you spend, as if you're spending it in partnership with Mother, then you can't really go very wrong. Any questions? Anything to say about this? Yeah?
There is a liftman in our building.
Loudly,
There
Anjan.
is a liftman in our building who needs some money periodically for his family because his salary is not enough. So he would come to me and I would give it to him. But recently I was told by some other person who knows him that he has a lot of ganja and all that.
Huh.
So in that case, now when the demand comes and he gives me proof that his wife was in hospital, etc.
He fakes the proof.
No, I suppose not because they are hospital bills and all that. So now there is some confusion that would he be, so in such a situation, where do you, I mean,
So
and
no,
doubt also is wrong.
so
That
no
there is-
hard and fast answer, Anjan. Ask Mother, but I had a friend and I experienced something very beautiful with him once. We were walking on the road, and these vagrants come with family and give you a medical bill and say, I have no money, please give me. And we know it's fake because all of us have been scammed by them very often. But my friend, he used to live in Tiruvannamalai, still does in those days. So of course his thinking is different. He put his hand on this person's shoulder, and 2 minutes heard out the whole fake story. And I was getting impatient because I knew it was all made up. And then took out 100 rupees and gave it to him. And I told him, "What are you doing? You know the man was lying and cheating you." So he said, "Yeah, I knew that, but I've cheated God so many times and He still gives me, so why should I not give?" So I thought that was so beautiful. See, it's true this man's having ganja, but he's bound by his habit and his wife may still be needing help. So don't give indiscriminately, use your discrimination, give sometimes, don't give sometimes. So long as you're giving with a clear intention, your purpose is served. How he spends the money is between him and mother.
There should not be a doubt and a judgment.
No, there should be discernment. That is he going to blow up my money on ganja? Is he ask for a demand draft? Show me that you've really sent this money to the village to your wife. Get proof that the money is going where it has to go. I mean, there must be some way he transfers it. Ask for proof for that. Further, mother says, sit down quietly. When you have a little time, whether it is 1 hour or a few minutes, tell yourself, at last I have some time to concentrate, to collect myself, to relive the purpose of my life and to offer myself to the eternal, to the true and the eternal. If you took care to do this each time you are not harassed by outer circumstances, you would find out that you are advancing very quickly on the path. So, when you have a little time at a signal or whatever, we'll pull out our phone, we'll do various other things to distract ourselves. But mother says, use that time to remind yourself, what's the goal of my life? To have this vision of God everywhere, or to discover who I really am. But is that really a goal for all of us? Would we say that's really our goal? How many of us would say that is our goal? Even mentally, is it your goal? How many of us would say even mentally it's our goal? But a lot of us aren't saying it's our goal, right? It's not your goal. So what would be your goal?
I don't think so. I'm at that point in my consciousness to say I have a goal. Because if I had to say I have material outcomes I want to fulfill, I feel a connection to the divine, but I don't have a formulated aspiration.
So he's being very honest. For most of us that's true. In our earthly, not all of us, don't look perplexed. For in our earthly life, we have material goals we want to meet. And you have a connection to the divine. But has divine become such a big part of your life that the divine is the goal? That's a question mark. But you have to really, it's important to have a goal. So my suggestion is sit with yourself and ask yourself, when have you really been the happiest in your life?
But in every decision you take, you have to account for dharma. So you are in some, otherwise you'll never be able to function in life.
Yeah, of course.
So you are connecting to God. I mean,
You-
that is your goal, whether you like it
For
or not.
you, but not for everyone else, a conscious goal. Unconsciously, maybe it's a goal. The soul's goal is what, but our mind doesn't know that as your goal.
Not the divine per se, like I wouldn't say the goal is to connect with the divine, but just to be more conscious and
But you can't be more conscious without what is conscious in you. It's the divine, no? There's everything else in you is totally unconscious.
so
Yeah?
that is not yet come. Like I wouldn't say I don't want to connect with the divine, I just want to like be more conscious.
But sit with yourself and figure it. How can you be more conscious without connecting with the divine? So if I want to be more conscious, if I want to be happier, if I want to be even materially fulfilled, I can't really do it without connecting with the divine, no? So it's like you're giving an ICSE exam, life is your ICSE exam, and you're studying textbooks. Your goal is to get your 99%. Now, till you don't know of this superb guidebook which will make studying very easy and will ensure your marks, you'll go the round way. You'll study the whole thing, you'll do everything. But if your guru comes along and gives you a guide and says just study this much and you'll max your paper, you'd be stupid not to use that key, right? So our guru is telling us what is his motto: all life is yoga. He wants material fulfillment, he wants perfection in outer life, but he's telling you, you do it by your own means, you're not going to get far, you're not going to get that material perfection or happiness. But the key to it all is to find the divine presence inside you and in life, and if you find that, your whole life will blossom. Mother in fact says that a parameter of how much you're growing spiritually is your external life. The more you grow spiritually, the more your external life will also blossom over a period of time. It doesn't mean you won't go through dark phases, but over a period of time you'll see this is true. So if I don't have a goal, that's good, that's honest, but it's good to sit with myself and define a goal for myself and then work towards it. So Mother says that whenever you have nothing to do, you're at a signal, you're in traffic, don't get impatient, just sit with yourself and remind yourself of the divine, remind yourself of the goal. And you can do this many, many times during the day. Anyone wants to say something? Okay.
It's like somewhere Sri Aurobindo said that if we could taste the richness of spiritual life, we could leave all else in all.
Yes. He says if man could once glimpse the splendors of the treasures that wait him in his spiritual home, he would leave all else and want nothing else. But many of us haven't taken the time, or if we glimpse it also, no, we forget about it.
I think at a very basic level, you can have a conscience also. And if you don't live by a conscience, you're going to be
But
miserable.
conscience is very moralistic. Conscience has nothing to do with the divine. That's conditioned.
I keep remembering what you said, that Sri Aurobindo said that even work is a really
Yeah.
nice way to
Yeah.
connect. So like during work, I do find myself coming back to like thinking, how can the universe flow through me to make like this, suppose a better stand around me?
Yes, yes. So Siddhi is a doctor. So beautiful. If all doctors invited that, see on Saifi Hospital, what's the beautiful motto?
It is he who
It is he who cures. If doctors remembered that all the time, how much magic would flow through their hands? Not just doctors, anything we do, whatever we do with our highest mental consciousness is here. But if we connect with the divine and do it, it's there.
Because there's only so much knowledge you can have.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. So actually it's very foolish to not remind ourselves that the divine is the aim, and it's like Mother's given a beautiful drawing. She's drawn the normal way to reach from point A to point B is this, and when you follow the sunlit path, it's this. So why would we be foolish and do this when we can just take the straight path? Yeah.
Is the goals in life for supposing us at this age can change? Like
Yeah.
every time, like somebody like right now my daughter needs me for something. So like I'm doing what you
That's the yes,
So
good.
then supposing somebody is ill in my this thing, I do accordingly. Then I'm taking my painting class and I like my finishing and my students to do the best in that. So every time you invite the divine and then fulfill the goal, but the goal is changing all the time.
Yeah, so the umbrella of the goal is divine.
Yeah.
But the way to reach the divine and invite him into your life, those are secondary goals. Primary goal of every soul is the divine, not of your mind, but of your soul. So it's good to remind the mind of that soul aim from time to time till the mind also starts sharing that aim.
Can you tell us more about conscience? You just told her that conscience really doesn't.
Conscience is conditioning. What your parents, what whole society has told you, good or bad.
Isn't it inbuilt in us?
It's
That
conditioned.
something I do wrong and there's a.
But what is wrong? The whole parameter of wrong is a conditioning, no? It's not. See, when you're connected to the psychic will tell you without anyone's influence, this feels good, it's right.
I meant that when I was talking.
But that's not conscience. Conscience is in the mind. So now,
The guilt would come out of conscience.
probably, guilt always from the conscience. So, Mother's words on meditation, I don't say think in the heart, I say concentrate. Concentrate the energy, concentrate the consciousness, concentrate the aspiration, concentrate the will. So, very often our meditation is seeing Mother's image in the heart, but that's a thought. It's good, start with a thought, but Mother's saying don't think in the heart, concentrate in the heart. So, one can have an extremely intense concentration without a single thought, without a single image. And in fact, it is usually much more intense when one does not think. It is one of the silence, it's one of the most indispensable things to do if one wants to succeed in having self-control and even a limited self-knowledge, to be able to localize one's consciousness and move it about in different parts of one's being in such a way as to distinguish between one's consciousness and one's thought, feelings, impulses, become aware of that consciousness is in itself. The consciousness must be mobile and one must know how to distinguish it from other parts of the being, which are in fact its instrument, its modes of expression. The consciousness must make use of these things, and you should not mistake these things for consciousness. Mother says somewhere, this is Janina from Captive of Her Love, that the most important thing is to be in a state of attentive silence, as if listening to something very subtle, but not to want to know what is being said. She's put it so beautiful. You concentrate in the heart in a state of attentive silence, as if listening to something very subtle, but not want to know what is being said. That is not formulated in words. Do you get it? Do you get what she's saying? Concentrate in the heart with an attentive listening without trying to understand. So you get a beautiful feeling, the mind will comment, oh, this feelings come from this. Just drop all that, as if your thought and mind has no place in this meditation. So you just focus your full concentration in the heart and you just stay there. Let's try it. Come. Sit tall. Focus at the heart center, center of the chest, and gather all the scattered threads of your awareness and pull them into the heart space. Today, avoid bringing an image or anything, and you'll feel in a limbo, but stay with the limbo. Concentrate your attention in the heart with an attentive listening. Listening without trying to understand or formulate whatever's arising in the moment. As if you've lost your capacity to think. If a thought comes, remind yourself that for the next few minutes I don't have the capacity to think, so drop the thought. Give up the curiosity or the urge to understand what's happening. That's the tough one. We are always curious about what we are experiencing during meditation, and that prevents the meditative state. Drop that curiosity. Drop trying to understand. Last 3 breaths. And then slowly open your eyes. Any observations? Any questions? Did you feel like, what is this? I'm not anywhere?
Experience lot of stiffness suddenly.
Okay. Okay. Maybe.
Usually when you're meditating, you tell your mind that focus on the outside or focus on the inside, but you're becoming like there's no structure.
So, what did you feel? Lost, no? Yeah. Initially, you do feel lost. That's why maybe you can start with an image and then try. The image will create a rasa, a bhava. Then drop the image and stay with that bhav. Just focus on that bhav. Yeah? Yeah, but just don't ignore them. Thoughts will come, but you have to tell yourself, I'm giving away my mind to mother, I don't have a mind to think. In the beginning, mother, I've given you my mind, now I'm not claiming my thoughts. I don't have the capacity to think. Yeah?
I try this when I want to know what the mother wants me to do. So you just wait and you become very silent till in that silence I feel mother speaks to you. And I find that very useful to find my answers. So just and if no answer comes, you wait longer, maybe again.
Yeah.
So it works like that.
Lovely what Bijal said, that you just remain quiet in your heart till, that's what it says, no, in the mind silence the transcendent acts, and the hushed heart hears the unuttered word. The unuttered word is the intuition which comes from mother's presence inside.
I felt more relaxed in this time because it's like when you tell a mantra, now do this, now do this. This was not just I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Like you don't want to understand ourselves.
Very good. The biggest obstacle in meditation is the urge to formulate, the urge to understand, then feeling kicked, wow, I'm feeling so good. All that breaks or I'm not feeling anything. Chuck all that. That's not your business. Your business is to sit, rest is mother's business.
I felt really tired that time.
Because you don't have the thinking mind.
Yes. So, Janina's words, mother says somewhere that the most important thing is to be in a state of attentive silence, as if listening to something very subtle, but not to want to know what is being said. This will come out of the depths after some time, after the meditation. Just ardent, vibrating, attentive silence. What will come out of the meditation? Ardent, full of love, vibrating, attentive silence. Please stop here. No, but I'm not going ahead. Hands together in a namaste at the heart. Let's end with 3 Oms.